She slid the envelope across the dining room table, between the mashed potatoes and the bread basket, right in front of her parents, her sister, and her sister's husband. She had timed it perfectly, or so she thought. It was a calculated ambush, choreographed down to the second, designed to trap me with a built-in audience of allies while my guard was down. She looked at me with a polished, victorious smile, confident that she had cornered me. What she didn't realize was that I had spent the last 6 weeks preparing a response of my own. Resting by my chair was a carefully wrapped shoebox containing 19 years of professional expertise turned inward, waiting for the exact right second to tear her illusion to pieces. My name is Philip Harrove. I'm a 45-year-old forensic accountant operating in Phoenix, Arizona. For nearly 2 decades, I've made my living diving into financial wreckage, chasing cut threads, and decoding the deliberate paper trails left by people who think they're clever enough to hide their crimes. I know how to spot a lie buried 6 layers deep inside a complex spreadsheet, and I know the exact look on someone's face when they believe they've gotten away with theft. When my wife began changing her habits and masking her tracks, I noticed immediately. You don't spend 20 years catching professional embezzlers without developing an instinct for domestic deceit. To understand how we ended up at that explosive dinner table, you have to go back to the beginning. Renata and I met 22 years ago at a charity gala in downtown Phoenix. She was working as a development coordinator for a local nonprofit, moving through the room with a commanding, effortless charm. She wore a deep burgundy dress and carried herself with an unmistakable authority that instantly pulled me in. 3 years later, we were married beneath the olive trees at a quiet inn in Paradise Valley. We built a life in North Scottsdale, bought a home with a stunning view of Camelback Mountain, and threw ourselves into our respective careers. For years, our partnership seemed unbreakable. Renata rose to become the executive director of a major homeless advocacy organization, gaining widespread respect across the valley. Meanwhile, I grew my firm from a solo desk into a thriving 7-person practice with government and corporate contracts across 3 states. We didn't have children, a painful reality dictated by 2 failed rounds of IVF, and a quiet, mutual decision to protect our marriage from being eroded by constant grief. For a long time, having each other was more than enough, and I truly believed our foundation was rock solid. The first subtle fractures appeared roughly 14 months before that final dinner. The warmth that had defined Renata for 2 decades didn't vanish overnight. It retreated like a slow-moving tide. She began coming home late, under the guise of endless grant deadlines and board meetings. Then came the sudden, hyper-vivid possessiveness over her phone. She changed a passcode I had known for a decade, kept the screen perpetually flipped down on counters, and carried the device with her into every single room. In my profession, sudden secrecy is never accidental. It is a protective shell constructed around a hidden liability. The turning point came on a cool Wednesday morning in late November. Renata left early for what she claimed was an off-site meeting in Tempe, leaving her open work laptop on the kitchen island. A notification chimed on the screen, revealing a message preview from a man named Trevor Elmore, the Chief Development Officer at a regional partner foundation. The message read, "Last night meant everything. I keep thinking about." I didn't open the email further. Instead, I closed the laptop, sat staring at the mountain horizon with my cold coffee, and let my professional training override my personal panic. In forensic accounting, reacting emotionally alerts the target and destroys your window of investigation. Instead of confronting her, I called my longtime attorney and trusted friend, David Kincaid. I told him we were officially starting a formal investigation and brought in a trusted forensic financial investigator to assist me. Over the following 6 weeks, I systematically dismantled my own marriage behind the scenes. I combed through every shared financial record, credit card statement, bank account, and calendar entry. The findings were clear and undeniable. Renata had been conducting an 8-month affair with Trevor, using local hotels and upscale restaurants near her office, even funding a silver bracelet she claimed was a donor gift. However, the infidelity wasn't the most shocking discovery. The real revelation lay in the spreadsheets. 4 months before I ever saw that message on her laptop, Renata had begun quietly siphoning funds out of our joint savings and money market accounts. She executed 16 precise, calculated transfers ranging between $500 and $1,200, keeping every transaction just under the threshold that triggers automated banking alerts. In total, she had systematically stolen $42,315 and routed it through layered accounts into a personal premarital bank account I couldn't access. This wasn't a reckless emotional blunder. It was a cold, pre-planned financial execution designed to gut my liquidity before filing for divorce. She had no idea who she was playing against. Over the next 3 weeks, I meticulously compiled a comprehensive evidence package. I documented every illicit transfer, cross-referenced every date, and had my forensic colleague draft an airtight financial summary report. David added a legal assessment detailing the explicit consequences of marital asset dissipation under Arizona state law. Finally, I printed a single, time-stamped page featuring her lover's email notification, backed by a summary of further evidence held in reserve for court. I placed everything inside 3 color-coded folders, packed them neatly inside a shoebox, and wrapped it in crisp gift paper with a white bow. The setting Renata chose for her big reveal was her parents' house in Chandler during a routine Sunday family dinner. Present at the table were her father Gerald, her mother Donna, her sister Kelsey, and her brother-in-law Brent. I had attended these dinners for over 20 years, watching her nephews grow up and sharing countless meals with these people. But as the dinner plates were being cleared, Renata reached into her bag and slid a manila envelope across the tablecloth directly toward my plate. With rehearsed poise, she announced to the entire room that she was filing for divorce and demanded I sign the papers immediately. Before I could even process her statement, her mother chimed in, remarking that this was for the best, while her father sat back with the complacent look of someone who had been briefed on the ambush hours before. They had scripted this entire evening, stacking the room with witnesses to force me into a quiet, embarrassed submission. I didn't flinch. I reached down to the floor, lifted the wrapped shoebox, and slid it directly into the center of the table right in front of my wife. I looked her dead in the eye and told her that I had brought her a gift as well. The air in the room shifted instantly as the smug confidence vanished from Renata's face. Hesitantly, she unraveled the bow and pulled off the lid. Inside, she found the complete, undeniable proof of her secret life. Folder 1 contained the audit detailing the $42,315 she had quietly embezzled from our life savings. Folder 2 contained the formal notice from my attorney outlining the legal ramifications of her fraud. Folder 3 held the printed evidence of her affair with Trevor Elmore. As she flipped through the pages, her face went completely pale, drained of all color and composure. When her mother leaned forward and asked what was in the box, Renata couldn't speak. Her hands hovered over the stolen figures and the proof of her betrayal, her theatrical performance entirely ruined. Gerald demanded to know what was going on, picking up the summary sheet and reading the financial evidence for himself. The sudden realization that his daughter was a thief and an adulterer shattered the orchestrated narrative she had fed them. I calmly picked up her divorce envelope, stood up, and thanked her mother for the dinner. I informed Renata that my attorney would gladly sign the papers once our legal response accounted for the entire financial picture, then walked out into the quiet desert night. The resulting divorce proceedings were brutal, precise, and entirely driven by the documentation I provided. Under Arizona law, the full $42,315 was clawed back and factored into the division of our assets. The house in Scottsdale was sold, and the equity was split fairly based on clean, unassailable financial facts rather than her fabricated narrative. Trevor Elmore's involvement was formally documented, though I felt no need to pursue him personally. My focus was strictly on securing my freedom and protecting my hard-earned assets. Within months, the legal tie was severed, finalized in a quiet conference room by 2 attorneys executing final decrees. I relocated to a light-filled second-floor apartment in the Arcadia neighborhood of Phoenix. I spent the first few months sitting in a local corner coffee shop every morning, finally learning how to be still and process the end of a 22-year chapter. I came to realize that while my marriage had ended in deceit, the genuine years we shared were still real, and I didn't need to poison my own memory to move forward. Reclaiming my life meant recognizing that my professional skills had saved me from a catastrophic betrayal, allowing me to step into the future on my own terms. Shortly after the divorce concluded, my accounting firm secured the largest financial investigation contract in its history, a massive bank fraud case in Tempe that required the exact level of methodical precision I live for. My team expanded, we moved into a new Biltmore area office, and my professional passion returned stronger than ever. Life also brought an unexpected second chance in the form of Sandra, a brilliant litigation attorney I had worked with on a previous real estate case. Having navigated her own complex past, she offered an authentic, grounded connection built on complete honesty and mutual respect. Looking back on that night at the dinner table, I don't feel anger. I feel a profound sense of clarity. Renata thought she could leverage shame, surprise, and family pressure to force me into a quiet defeat. She forgot that you cannot trap a man who knows how to illuminate the dark, hidden corners of a paper trail. When someone shows you who they truly are behind closed doors, you don't argue, and you don't make a scene. You gather the facts, hold your ground, and let the truth do the talking for you.